Hello, everyone, and thank you for the wonderful segue just now. That's excellent, because I'm going to talk to you about data from the perspective of design. I'm just going to also put my timer on here because I'm a little worried about getting through this in 7 minutes. Design is also a very newish discipline, especially the discipline of making digital products. And as part of that, we've had to learn how to use big data in our work. And that's really what I'm here to tell you about today. This doesn't actually, there we go. There we go. This is me. Hello, my name is Brian. No, you guys are still awake. Good. My name is Hannah. Actually, so the reason I put this up here is because This Is My Jam is the company that I co-founded, and Brian is the name of the man, actually, from the Echo Nest that helped incubate This Is My Jam early on. I also worked at Last.fm, which got bought by CBS. And now, actually, I'm working for Ripcord, which is this new creative technology studio, which is backed by MTV. So I've spent pretty much my entire career working in music and entertainment, and specifically I'm very focused on self-expression and discovery of these things. So first, tell you a little bit about myself. Very important things that you need to understand for this presentation right now, okay? Very important. Growing up, I didn't watch any TV. I wasn't allowed to, so I made my own videos. Also, I play in a real orchestra that plays music like that in places like that, and I play in a comedy orchestra that plays music like this in places like that. And also, this presentation would not be complete without my favorite picture on the internet, which is this. Okay, right? I know, this is what the internet's for, right? Okay, well, let's get on with this. So something very important happened to me when I was, it was probably like 1999. I discovered Napster, and this completely changed my life and the course of my career, actually, because I got very interested in solving the problem of access for music, and then out of that, discovery and self-expression and how you find this music that other people are sharing. And so in 2006, I was lucky enough to go work for Last.fm, which, as Paolo was explaining earlier, is, I should say, a company that was really dedicated to figuring out how to recommend you the best music based on what everybody was listening to. So what they were doing very early on, before any other music company was really doing this, was listening, tracking all of the music that you were listening to, and with this huge mountain of data, I think at their peak they were doing like 800 scrobbles, that's what they called this, a second. Through all that pile of data, we were able to look at it and, using algorithms and collaborative filtering, suggest music that you might want to listen to. Now, during this time also, something else was kind of interesting was happening, which was that with all this data and with all this interesting stuff that we were doing here at Last.fm, this is a newspaper actually that we printed through Newspaper Club. I think this was 2009. This kind of shows you how we were able to see like the patterns of listening across not just a city but across the world. Something started to happen, which was this conversation that kind of frustrated me. That kind of started like this. In like 2012, people started arguing about what would be better for music. Would it be that we tell you what to listen to based on this machine learning, or should we have these human curators pick it for you? Because that's what had been happening for years and years and years, right? Music journalism is a whole thing. It's very important. What about record labels? And this just kind of went on and on and on, and it's still happening, and it's extremely frustrating to me. More on that in a second. So after I left Last.fm, I started my own company, This Is My Jam, with my co-founder Matthew Ogle, and we started to approach this problem of music discovery from the complete opposite end of the spectrum. We were kind of at that point, we were a little bit frustrated and felt a little bit trapped by just using data to help recommend music to people, and so we were like, what if we just do it completely the opposite way, and we go back to asking people what they like. And so what we did is we asked people what their favorite song is, and from that we were able to create a playlist for people of all of this amazing music. And the interesting thing about This Is My Jam is what we discovered as we were doing this is that we could actually also use data, and we used a lot of the Echo Nest APIs to create playlists for people to help them discover music. But what we had done was we basically stacked the deck, which was a problem that I had never encountered at Last.fm previously, where it was very difficult to pull out the right amount of data and how we're going to do this. At Jam, I remember the day that Matt hooked up the EchoNest playlist API to our data, and it just worked. And we were like, this is a fluke. This can't happen. It's not supposed to be like this. Let's try it again. And it just worked again. And the reason is because all the music that we'd put into it to start with was all really good. It was all people's favorite songs. It started with just asking people, what's your favorite song right now, and allowing them to express it in a way like this. We were also very interested in how we could make this extremely visual and expressive. So to sort of summarize, because I have 7 minutes here, I think, to tell you about what I've learned working with big data in design. The first thing here is that this is just about using the right tool for the job. And I love this. This is Hype Machine's Stack newsletter. I'm putting this up here because I think this is an excellent example of both human curation as well as using data to make decisions. And as designers, these are just 2 tools in our toolkit. It's not about one being better than the other. It's not that face-off. If I have to watch that South by panel again, I'm going to lose it. These are just tools in our toolkit for us to use appropriately when it makes sense to do so. The second thing is that big data is really only as useful as its context. And I think this is extremely important because often we place so much importance on how are we going to get the data, how are we going to collect it, where is it going to live. And actually the much harder part, and the part that I often come up against as a designer, is, okay, well, how do we get it out? How do we actually compare it to something? And especially at Last.fm, the kinds of comparisons that I wanted to do that were meaningful were things like, what does my music taste look like in relation to my friends? Well, that's actually really difficult because you need to load someone's music taste in like a fraction of a second. Then you need to look at their entire friend network. Then you need to grab the people that they have the most in common with and like compare it and serve it all up to them in a really nice way. No big deal, right? And so this kind of stuff is usually what we call in the business expensive. It's very expensive to make those kinds of queries, and I spent a lot of time working with the data scientists there to figure out, like, how do we do this? And there was a lot of trade-offs involved. So I feel like for designers, this is one of the most important things to be thinking about, is how do you, what are you going to compare it to? What's the context for that data? And of course, there's also this part of just letting people organize it too, which I think is really important. Like the Twitter hashtag has completely changed how we think about things. At Last.fm, we also use tagging, and I think this is very interesting, especially for this genre, which was designed actually so that people could not find it online. Witch House, it's using symbols, so you can't Google it. And actually, just in this job, we started a little experiment here. We pulled some stuff out of the MTV vault because we have this vault of 34 years of video, of only which 20% has ever made it to air. And we pulled out some amazing interviews. This one is by ODB, and put them up on Rap Genius to get the community to annotate it, to try and understand it through that lens of context as opposed to what we could do ourselves in-house. And lastly, it's just that these creators and curators are now using big data to shape the work that they make. And I think we're seeing this in museums, but we're also seeing this with everybody who is making online these days. And these tools have really affected and shaped how people are thinking about what they're making, with everything from like musicians considering how their statistics are tied to the release of their next songs or what their audience likes, through to this story here. I love this one, Connor Franta. This is a story I was learning about recently. He's a YouTube star, and he's extremely famous, but he had done sort of these funny, kind of like cool videos, and then he did this really moody one that was much more personal, and he kind of did it as a test to see, like, would he be able to do more of these? And using big data and the analytics, it seemed that his audience really enjoyed this, and it was after this that he posted his coming out video, which has had 7 million views. And then, of course, this one, which everybody has heard of, which is how even creators at this level are using big data to inform the decisions about how they make things today. So that's it. I think I've used up my 7 minutes. Hopefully that gives you some insight to design. And now I will turn you over to Erin.
Yeah. Thank you.